Dear friends, I welcome you all of in the part 4A of manufacture of heavy chemicals. This topic is for BSc 3 students. Okay. So in this part 4A, we are going to study regarding the manufacture of ammonia by Haber's process. Question number 3, write a note on manufacture of ammonia by Haber's process. Here, ammonia is one of the heavy chemical. Heavy chemical means it is largely manufactured and largely used in various industries. So this ammonia requires in almost all industries. Hence it is manufactured in large quantity, large scale, commercial scale. That's why this chemical is known as heavy chemical, isn't it? And in general, this chemical is manufactured by Haber's process. Haber is one of the scientists who has given the manufacturing process of this ammonia. So this process can be divided into 3 parts. One is the main chemical reactions which are involved in the manufacture of this ammonia when we prepare by Haber's process. And the second one is the physicochemical principle. Okay, physicochemical principle means what? The conditions to get better yield of product. Okay, and in third part we are going to see regarding the actual manufacturing process which is carried out in the ammonia industry. Okay, so in this way we have divided this question into 3 parts and we are going to study one by one. Okay, so let us see what are the chemical reactions involved in the manufacture of ammonia by Haber's process. Friends, this is the only one reaction which is involved in the manufacture of ammonia. Here N2 are taken and H2 are taken, and due to the chemical reaction between these N2 and H2 molecules, ammonia is manufactured. So this is the only one reaction which involves in this process. Okay, that's why here the point 1 completes, that is what are the main chemical reactions which are involved in this manufacturing process. Then we can explain, or we can say that N2 and H2, these both reactants are converted into ammonia. This is the only reaction which is involved in this manufacturing process. That's all. Okay, now second point which we are going to explain is physicochemical principles. What is meant by physicochemical principle? Here, according to Le-Chatelier principle, as well as according to law of mass action, we explain the effect of temperature, effect of pressure, effect of concentration, as well as the catalyst, so that we can get maximum yield of the product. So the conditions to get maximum yield of product are called as physicochemical principle or conditions. Okay, that means here, you know, this is actually a reversible reaction. You know that in the reversible reaction, the reaction never goes to completion. It never completes. Always some unreacted products, unreacted reactants are there in the reaction chamber. So we cannot get 100% yield in such reactions. If a reaction contains forward as well as backward reaction, it means if a reaction is reversible reaction or if a reaction is in equilibrium, then here we will never get 100% product. For example, if you take 100 N2 molecules and 100 H2 molecules as a reactants, and if you carry the reaction between these N2 and H2, actually you should obtain 100 NH3 molecules, because 100 N2 and 100 H2 should get converted into 100 NH3. But as this reaction is reversible, as this reaction contains backward reaction also, here at a certain stage, what happens? Whatever the NH3 are formed, they get converted back into N2 and H2. That's why here we will not get 100% product, or we will not convert 100% reactants into product. So in order to convert maximum reactants into product, maximum unreacted, for example, suppose if 50% N2 and 50% H2 are spontaneously converted into NH3, they themselves are converted into NH3, okay, before applying any pressure or temperature or before doing anything. Suppose if they are spontaneously, they themselves have converted into product, and if 50% N2 and 50% H2 are unable to convert into the product due to no collision between these reactants, then what will happen? Only you will get 50% NH3, isn't it? Because there are 50% N2 and H2 reactants which are not reacting with each other. They are unable to react with each other. That's why they remain as a reactants till the end of this reaction. So in order to convert these unreacted 50% N2, these unreacted 50% H2 into NH3, we have to do something. As a chemist, we have to do something on this reaction. We have to change the pressure, we have to change the concentration or the concentration of the reactants, etc. That's why here whatever we are changing, or whatever the temperature, pressure or concentration or catalyst we are deciding by practically in order to get maximum yield of NH3, that is called as physicochemical principle, isn't it? Physicochemical principle. So in this physicochemical principle, we are going to decide the effect of temperature. It means whether this reaction will give maximum yield with minimum temperature or with increase in temperature. That we are going to decide according to Le-Chatelier principle. Then we are going to decide the effect of pressure. If we increase the pressure of this reactant, what will happen? Whether we will get maximum yield of the NH3, or if we decrease the pressure, whether we get maximum or minimum yield of NH3, that we are going to decide according to again the Le-Chatelier principle as well as the law of mass action. Then in third way, we are going to decide the effect of concentration. If a concentration of reactants are increased, whether we get maximum yield or minimum yield, isn't it? That we are going to decide. Okay, so for that, let us know about this reaction. So this is the reaction in which N2 and H2 are converted into NS3. This is the forward reaction. And there is also backward reaction in which NS3 is getting converted into N2 and H2. So this is this is the reversible reaction. Okay, this is the reversible reaction because it contains both forward as well as backward reactions. Then second information we get here is that the forward reaction is exothermic. That is, when the reactants get converted into product, the temperature is going to evolve. Here 24 kilocalorie temperature is evolving, isn't it? That's why forward reaction is exothermic. This is the second information we are getting from this reaction. Then what is the third information? Here there is a decrease in volume from reactant to product side. That means here this is 1 mole, this is 3 mole, isn't it? And this is 2 mole. So total here 1 plus 3 is equal to 4 moles or 4 volume. And here 2 moles or 2 volume. It means here the number of moles or volume is going to decrease from 4 to 2, from reactant side to product side, isn't it? It means, say the forward reaction is exothermic. It means there is a one rule. If a forward reaction is exothermic, then the backward reaction will be endothermic. Exothermic means the temperature is evolved, and endothermic means the temperature is absorbed. While the forward reaction takes place or exothermic reaction takes place, the temperature of the system increases. The temperature of the reaction mixture or the temperature of that chamber or the beaker increases. While if endothermic is taking place, then the temperature of the reaction mixture or the system or the beaker or the chamber goes on decreasing. It decreases. So exothermic reaction increases the temperature and endothermic reaction decreases the temperature, isn't it? And another rule is that if a number of mole goes on increasing is higher, then the pressure will be higher. We have already seen in previous videos, okay, in the Le-Chatelier's principle. If number of moles are increasing, the pressure increases. And if number of moles are decreasing, the pressure decreases. This is general rule. So here at the reactant side, there are more number of moles. That is 4 number of moles. That's why here the pressure is high. And at the product side, only 2 moles are there. 2 volumes are there. It means here pressure is comparatively low. As compared to the reactants, the product side, the pressure is low. This is the information we are getting from this reaction. Okay. So with this information, we are going to decide the effect of, first we are going to decide the effect of temperature, isn't it? Effect of temperature. Say according to Lee-Chatterjee principle and law of mass action, we are going to obtain the optimum conditions of temperature, pressure, concentration in order to get maximum yield of NS3, isn't it? So these are the basic principles which tell us that whether you have to carry this reaction in lower temperature or higher temperature, lower pressure or higher pressure, with decreasing concentration of reactants or with increasing concentration of reactant. That can be decided on the basis of the Lee-Chatterjee principle as well as law of mass action, isn't it? So first of all, let us study the effect of temperature on this reaction. The reaction is exothermic, isn't it? The reaction is exothermic, means forward reaction is exothermic. That is, while the forward reaction takes place, the temperature increases. And while backward reaction takes place, the temperature decreases, isn't it? Now, suppose this is the reaction. Now, suppose what is our aim? Our aim is to get maximum yield of NS3, isn't it? Our aim is to get maximum yield of NS3 from the unreacted N2 and the unreacted H2. So here, suppose if you increase the temperature of this system, if you increase the temperature of this system, according to Lee-Chatterjee principle, what will happen? This system will try to decrease the temperature. This system will try to decrease the temperature. So, in order to decrease the temperature, what process or what type of reaction should be done to this system? This system itself has to carry the backward reaction, the endothermic reaction. When the endothermic reaction is carried, then only the temperature of this system goes on decreasing. That's why if you carry this reaction at a higher temperature, here what will happen? In order to decrease this increased temperature, the system itself will, what will happen? It itself will carry the endothermic reaction. That is, whatever the products already formed spontaneously, these formed product will get converted into reactants back. It is because this system has to decrease the temperature. And in order to decrease the temperature, it has to carry the endothermic reaction. That's why here you should not increase the temperature. This reaction should not be carried at higher temperature, because at higher temperature, in order to decrease the temperature, the system goes back. Whatever the products are formed, they get converted back into the reactants, and that we don't want. We want only the maximum yield of NS3, isn't it? Suppose if you decrease the temperature, what will happen? If you carry this reaction at a minimum temperature, what will happen? If you decrease temperature, this system will try to increase the temperature. So in order to increase the temperature, what to do? Here the system has to carry forward reaction or exothermic reaction. If exothermic reaction is carried, then only the temperature of the system increases. So if you decrease the temperature, this system tries to increase its temperature, and it again tries to go its original state. That is the Lee-Chatterjee principle. That's why if you decrease, it will try to increase the temperature. In order to increase, there is only one way, that is to carry exothermic reaction. Exothermic reaction means what? Here N2 and H2 should be converted into NS3. Then only the temperature increases. That's why if you decrease the temperature, what will happen? Here, whatever the unreacted reactants are there, they will get converted into NS3 in order to increase the temperature of the system. That's why you will get maximum yield of this product. Therefore, this reaction should be carried out at a minimum temperature. Otherwise, the NS3 will get decomposed into N2 and H2. That should be avoided, isn't it? That's why here we should carry out this reaction at a lower temperature, isn't it? Lower temperature. But if a temperature is too much low, then what will happen? The reactant will not collide on each other. We have seen in a first video. In order to carry the reaction between the reactants, what is the first necessary condition? The reactants should come in contact with each other. They should collide with each other. Otherwise, the exchange of electrons, sharing of electrons, or the exchange of reaction energy will not take place. That's why if you carry this reaction too much lower temperature, as per the Le-Chatelier's principle, what will happen? The reactants will not collide with each other. The reactant will not become active. They will not absorb kinetic energy. They will not move fast. And if they are not moving faster, if they do not have energy, then they do not carry with each other. That's why the reaction will not take place. So, according to Le-Chatelier principle, you should keep lower temperature. But if you keep very lower temperature, then what will happen? The reactants will not collide with each other. They will not have sufficient amount of energy to move faster and to collide with each other. Then the reactant will not form product. That's why here temperature should be minimum, but it should not be so minimum that the reactant will not get activated. The reactant will not collide with each other. That's why we have to experimentally determine the optimum temperature at which the reactants will react to give maximum yield. It should not be too much lower temperature and it should not be too much higher temperature. If you keep higher temperature, what will happen? NS3 will get decomposed to N2 and H2. And if you keep lower temperature, very much lower temperature, what will happen? The N2 and H2 are unable to move and unable to come in contact with each other. That's why the reaction will not take place. Hence, you have to neither keep too much higher temperature nor too much lower temperature. You have to decide the optimum temperature by experimentally. You carry this reaction from 10 degrees Celsius, 20, okay, 50, 60, 70, like that. You go on increasing the temperature and you observe at which temperature you get maximum yield of the product. And you decide that temperature as an optimum temperature. And this is experimentally decided that 500 to 550 degrees Celsius is the best temperature condition to get maximum yield of ammonia. Here, this is not too much low temperature and it is not too much higher temperature. Here, at this temperature, we get maximum product of NS3, isn't it? So this is optimum temperature. Let us see what will be the effect of pressure. What will be the effect of pressure on this reaction? See, this is the reaction. Here 4 volumes or 4 moles. At a product side, there are only 2 moles. It means at a reactant side, there is higher pressure, and at product side, there is lower pressure. The pressure is minimum, pressure is maximum. Now, according to Le-Chatelier's principle, suppose if you increase the pressure of the reactants, what will happen? This system itself will oppose. If you increase, it will try to decrease the pressure, isn't it? So in order to decrease the pressure, what the system has to do? The system has to decrease the number of moles, because when a number of moles are decreased, the pressure also decreases. When number of moles increases, the pressure also increases. So if you decrease, or if the system decreases the number of moles, then what will happen? The pressure decreases. That's why, suppose if you increase the pressure of this reaction, according to Le-Chatelier's principle, this system will try to decrease it. And in order to decrease it, it has to decrease the number of moles. And the number of moles are decreased only then when the reactants get converted into product. Because here there are 4 moles, here 2 moles. So reactant to product, the moles are decreasing. The product to reactant, moles are increasing. So here, if you increase the pressure, this system will decrease the pressure, and for that it has to carry the forward reaction. That is, it has to produce ammonia from unreacted N2 and H2 molecules. Then it will achieve again the equilibrium state. It will attain the equilibrium state, isn't it? So that's why here, for example, suppose if you decrease the pressure, what will happen? This system will try to increase the pressure. Whatever you are doing, exactly opposite that one, the system tries to do. If you increase, it will decrease. If you decrease, it will increase. So suppose if you decrease the pressure, what will happen? It will try to increase. When the pressure is increased, if a number of moles get increased, that's why here, if you decrease the pressure, in order to increase the pressure, it has to increase the moles, number of moles. That's why what will happen here, whatever the NH3 molecules are already formed, spontaneously formed, themselves formed, these formed NH3 will get decomposed into N2 and H2, which we do not want. What is our aim here? We want maximum NH3. This is the product. We want this one. That's why if you want this one, then you have to increase the pressure. Okay. So here, increase in pressure will increase the yield of NH3. Hence, here practically it is found that the temperature of 200 to 1000 atmosphere is kept for this reaction. So at this reaction, we get at this pressure, we get maximum yield of NH3. Hence, this is called as optimum pressure. Optimum pressure means the pressure at which a maximum yield of product is obtained, isn't it? Okay. Now, let us know about the effect of concentration. Here, this is the law of mass action. Here, what it indicates, let us take this N2 and H2 towards this side. What will happen? N2 into H2 into K is equal to NH3, isn't it? Now, K is a constant and equal to. If you remove constant and equal to, what will happen? Here the directly proportional. This reaction becomes directly proportional. It means N2 and H2 are directly proportional to NS3, or NS3 is directly proportional to N2 and H2. It means what? As the concentration of N2 and H2 increases, the concentration of NS3 increases. It means if you increase the concentration of N2 and H2, you will get maximum yield of NS3. This is according to law of mass action, isn't it? Now, according to what will happen according to Le-Chatelier principle? Suppose this is the reaction. If you increase the concentration of these reactants, what will happen? This system will try to decrease the concentration of reactants. Whatever you are going to do, exactly opposite to that one, the system tries to do. So if you increase the concentration, the system will try to decrease the concentration. So in order to decrease this one, what it has to do? It has to convert these reactants into product. Then only then the number of reactants are going to decrease. Isn't it? So here, if you increase the concentration of the reactant, if you add N2 and H2 from externally, that is, if you are increasing concentration of N2 or H2 or both, then what will happen? Here, in order to decrease this increased concentration, the system tries to convert these reactants into product. That's why you will get maximum product. Therefore, you have to increase the concentration of N2 and H2, or either N2 or either H2, isn't it? But here it is final that if we increase the concentration of either N2 or H2 or both, we will get maximum yield of NS3. It is final. But what will happen? As compared to N2, the H2 is cheaper and it is easily available. N2 is costly. Therefore, here what happens? In actual practice, the concentration of H2 is increased more. Concentration of H2 is taken 3 times more than N2. It means you are going to increase only the concentration of H2. Suppose it is 100 N2 you have taken initially, 100 H2 you have taken. Now, as per law of mass action and Le-Chatelier principle, if you increase the concentration of the reactants, the product will be more, isn't it? Now, what you have to do as a chemist? This is costly. You cannot increase this one, isn't it? So take hydrogen molecules, add 300 hydrogen molecules. It means increase the concentration of hydrogen molecules. Automatically, the concentration of reactant goes on increasing. That's why here, due to disturbance created in this equilibrium state, the reaction shifts towards the forward reaction, or it forms maximum NS3 molecule. That's why the concentration of N2 and H2 should be kept 1:3. Here, if you take 100, you have to take 300 H2 molecules, isn't it? Okay. Then rate of flow. Rate of flow means here we will see it actually in a procedure, manufacturing procedure. If you recirculate the reactants over and over on the surface of catalyst, if you bring the reactants repeatedly in contact with the catalyst, then there is more possibility that the maximum reactants get converted into NS3. That's why we have to recirculate repeatedly these reactants. We will see this one in detail while studying the manufacturing process. Okay, but you remember that the recirculation of these reactants over the catalyst should be done. Okay, now let us see what will be the effect of catalyst. Here this reaction is exothermic. That's why you cannot increase more temperature. You have to carry this reaction at a minimum temperature, and there is a possibility that at the minimum temperature more reactant will not get converted into product because they will not acquire maximum energy to react with each other. They should be activated. Hence, at this minimum temperature, if you increase the temperature, what will happen? According to Le-Chatelet principle, whatever the NH3 molecules are formed, they will get decomposed back to N2 and H2. That's why you have to carry this reaction at a minimum temperature. But at a minimum temperature, the reactants will not react because they will not acquire the sufficient amount of energy to collide with each other. That's why in such reactions, use of catalyst, suitable catalyst is more important. That's why in this reaction, here we are going to use Fe as a catalyst. Fe is taken, a pieces of Fe or finely divided Fe or Fe powder is added to the reaction mixture along with molybdenum as a promoter. For objective or multiple questions, remember here Fe is used as a catalyst and molybdenum is used as a promoter. Promoter means what happens? Here molybdenum will not allow the impurities to sit or adsorb on the surface of Fe. So molybdenum is called as catalyst of catalyst. Molybdenum increases the efficiency of catalyst because whatever the impurities are there in N2 and H2 molecules, reactants, for example, CO, carbon monoxide, is the impurity which always remains along with these reactants. But if you do not use molybdenum, what will happen? This CO also gets adsorbed on the surface of Fe and it blocks the active centers of Fe. That's why the efficiency of Fe gets destroyed or gets decreased. That's why in order to prevent the activity of Fe from CO impurity, carbon monoxide impurity, here a molybdenum is added. What is the role of this molybdenum? The molybdenum just absorbs or adsorbs. It adsorbs the CO from the reactant mixtures on its own surface. That's why the poisoning of catalyst is decreased or avoided by using molybdenum. That's why this is called as catalyst of catalyst or promoter. Okay, promoter. So here, in order to increase the rate of reaction, we have to use a catalyst like Fe. And in order to avoid the poisoning of catalyst, we are going to use molybdenum as a promoter. Okay. Then I have already explained you the rate of flow. That is, you have to recirculate these reactants over and over on the surface of catalyst Fe. Then only then you will get maximum yield of the product. So dear friends, these are some of the optimum conditions to get maximum yield of NH3. Here the temperature should be 500 to 550, pressure should be 200 to 1000 atmospheric pressure, and the concentration of N2 and H2 should be 1:3. Yeah, H2 should be taken more, and the catalyst should be Fe. Fe acts as a best catalyst for this reaction, and along with its molybdenum. Molybdenum is the catalyst of catalyst or promoter. Okay. So in this way, here we are going to complete what are physicochemical principles involved in the manufacture of ammonia by Haber's process. In next video, that is part 4b, we are going to study actually the manufacturing process. Manufacturing process, how the ammonia is actually manufactured in industries, and what are the parts involved and what are the components involved in this reaction. Okay, so let us meet in part 4a. Okay, thank you.